Michael, it's been just over a year since you last sat down and provided us with a financial update for the club. Could you just provide us with a new update on how things have been over the past year?
Yeah, afternoon, Gareth. A couple of weeks ago, the club, we actually filed our audited accounts. That's for the year ended May 2023, which is basically last season. The purpose today is to really sort of go into those in a bit of detail, to go through where our income comes from, how we spend that money. I think being community owned, it's important that we are as open and transparent on the numbers as possible. Obviously, some numbers are commercially sensitive, so we can't go and disclose too much. Before starting, I think it's also worth just reminding people that last season was the first full year of community ownership. The 20 years before that, I think the average loss, the club were losing roughly 300 to 400,000 a year on average, and I think I'm right in saying there was no more than 2 out of those 20 years did they actually make a profit. Might only have been 1, so we're kind of up against it. So our total income in the year, you can see there, was just over 1.5 million, and there's a few points there I'll just talk you through. So if we start with the prize money, 413,000. This was helped by finishing 5th in the league while we'd actually budgeted for 8th. What was a little painful there was that we were just, as you know, 1 point away from 2nd, and that would have been worth close to an extra 300,000. The prize money basically really ramps up the higher up the league you go, and each playoff spot is worth nearly 100,000 additional each place. If you look next, season tickets gate receipts. Pleasingly, they were up about 15% from the year before. However, it is one area where we hope to improve going forward. If we had an extra 550 adults coming to each home game, that would be worth an additional 200,000 a year to us in income, which would obviously make a massive difference to our budget. And I think if you look at the home crowd some our competitors get, like Raith, Partick, Dunfermline, even Falkirk in the league below, it helps explain why they're able to fund a significantly higher playing budget than we can. And to be honest, given a recent run of form, the football we're playing, I think our crowds of late, obviously excluding the cup games, have been a bit disappointing, and I think hopefully we can do better going forward. If you look at the cup gate receipts, included in that figure there's 200,000 from the Celtic game, and you can see basically what a difference that one event alone makes, the luck of the cup draw. You can also see contributions there from MCT members in Dorada. They make a big difference, and look, realistically, without these we'd be looking at a playing budget that would mean part-time football. It's worth also mentioning that this season Dorada and Hungry Squirrel have upped their contributions to over 300,000, and look, we're all extremely grateful for their help and generosity. They're 2 international companies with strong ties to Greenock, and the only reason they are contributing is really to try and help the club and to give something back to the local community. If we now look at expenses, I'd say essentially our aim is to provide as much as we can to the first team budget. I believe we're quite lean in terms of our back office staff overheads, and in fact I'd say we've arguably been too lean, and at the moment we're currently investing more off the pitch. A big concern for us is the stadium, given its age and condition. We somehow get through season to season, but I think there's always a big concern that one day, hopefully not soon, that major investments could be needed. If you take the biggest expense category, which I call the football department there, at 1.1 million, included in that's the players, also the staff, Dougie, his team, physios, pitches, pitch hire, bus travel, etc. If you stripped out just the first team alone, Dougie often likes to remind me it's the lowest playing budget in the league. Now, if it's not the lowest, I don't know, it's certainly down there. And look, it's a real credit to Dougie, Andy, his team and all the players that we are where we are in terms of results, because we're undoubtedly punching way above our weight based on what our budget is. Youth Academy there, you can see, made a small loss in 22-23, and unfortunately that loss has been increasing this season. If you take away the SFA funding we receive for the academy, the club needs to find around an additional 100,000 a year in sponsorships and donations, and it's quite a challenge. Academy obviously plays a huge part in our future plans, but we do need to try and get it breaking even to make it sustainable. I should put it out there. There are currently a number of sponsorship opportunities available, so if any local businesses would like to get in touch with the club, please do so. So overall there you can see bottom line shows a profit for last season of 88,000. However, there were a few legacy items, basically expenses which related to prior seasons, which we've written off, cleaned up the accounts. So the audited accounts that were filed, they show a profit of 70,000.
I suppose the biggest news and the good news is that it's a profit for the year. So in terms of the current season and looking ahead for the next year, how is the club looking?
Well, pleasingly, Gareth, this year we're looking again at a profit, hopefully looking at round about the 200,000 mark, so a bigger profit. That also still assumes that we're going to finish 8th in the league, so hopefully there's a bit of upside there. And I think going forward, what that will do is hopefully it means we can put a bit more for next season towards the playing budget. Being an accountant, as much as I'd like a balance sheet like Celtic's, I think we're also conscious that people who are donating their money to the club would rather see, a new striker than money sitting in the bank. So there's a balance to be had there, right enough.
And just away from the numbers side of things, for you personally, how have you found it in the role so far? And maybe in terms of your achievements and maybe disappointments that you've had in the role, what are some of them and how have you found it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd say there's been a few ups and downs. It's probably been more of a challenge than I expected. It seems every week there's a new challenge in the club. But look, overall, it's been enjoyable. I think it's a privilege to be on the board. Somebody did ask me last week, which came as a surprise. They asked, how much I was paid, and the chairman was paid, and the other directors. So I think it is worth putting out there that there's nobody gets paid anything, including we don't take expenses. And that, by the way, also goes for the MCT directors. In terms of achievements, I think last season one of the big ones was changing our ticketing provider. As you know, we switched to Fanbase, small Scottish company with real state-of-the-art technology. It's always a challenge when you do this switch, but pleasingly everything went pretty smoothly. I think a lot thanks to Fanbase. They really went above and beyond to make sure there were no hiccups. Maybe helps one of them's a Morton fan. In terms of disappointments, I think the big one would be, this time last year we I spoke about one of the goals was diversifying our revenue streams, and we've not really kicked on as much as we could. I think there's so much more we could be doing in terms of events, retail, sponsorship, advertising, so that we're not so reliant on Dorada or getting, one of the old firm in a cup tie. I think the fan zone's a good example of that. We've secured the land next to Capello. Nothing's really happened. We're a bit behind where we wanted to be this time a year ago. And
why do you feel that is?
I think mainly a human resource issue. It's just, we've got a lot of ideas, a lot of projects, but just maybe not enough, manpower to drive some of these things forward. But look, I think pleasingly, last few months we have got some new faces joining the club. Also people with football knowledge and experience, which I think we lacked before. Obviously, John Laird came in as chairman. John's somebody I've known for a few years. I was delighted he agreed to become chairman. John's somebody who's been around the club for 30 odd years, longer than probably anyone. He's been advisor to a couple of the previous boards. He was head of the youth academy at one point, director of youth. He was also played a key role in the good old days when we had our transfer fees back in the 90s. Somebody told me the other week we actually brought in today's money about 20 million in the space of a few years.
Yeah, that's a massive number in terms of today's money, and maybe not looking to bring in that amount at this moment in time. But in terms of the future and young players coming through, bringing in transfer fees is something that you want to look forward to.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think Scottish football's obviously changed. If you look around, there isn't as many transfers for money as there was back then. But I think we've got a few youngsters here who have definitely got the talent to be playing at a higher level if they just keep developing. And I think longer term, 100%, it is to try and bring people through the youth academy. It is a big focus and has to be. It's the way to go. Now, as well as John coming in, we've also had Dale come in as general manager. look, he's been a breath of fresh air. He's brought with him in his clear experience and knowledge from his previous roles in football. Lot of enthusiasm, good business acumen, and I think for me and also for the club it's important to have somebody there that is good with numbers and understands the importance of sticking to budgets, etc. So that's very pleasing. Not a new face in the building, but another big positive is Dougie agreeing, committing his future for the next couple of seasons. He's obviously key to what we're building here. And I think other than that, there's a few other pieces of the jigsaw we're working on at the moment to put in place the building blocks for next season and beyond. But I think, look, overall, on the field, off the field, I think we're in a good place. We're definitely making progress, and look, I think good reason to be optimistic.
Well, Michael, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for providing this update.
No worries. Thanks, Gareth.